and so on. Can you go back to repeat some of the things that you had mentioned on that list?
Sure, hopefully I'll get the ones you're looking for. I talked about 3 buckets of costs that are the majority of this year's ask. There are replacements for PCs throughout the district, in labs and in classrooms. There's an aging group there of 5 to 7 years, so they need to be replaced and recycled out. There's a set of smart boards throughout the K through 5 areas in the school district. Those are directly correlated to 2 particular programs, of course, the study that we've already adopted, one for reading the journeys, the second is the math that will be instituted next year. And the third are for that same K through 5, enabling each of the classrooms with a computer laptop for use by the teacher in conjunction, obviously, with those programs and others. Those are the 3 biggest areas.
So my question to you is, in terms of the smart board, what's going to happen in terms of helping the teachers learn how to use those, because it's not as easy as just 1, 2, 3.
Absolutely. So in the budget as well, what was Reading stated was an additional set of dollars for professional development to make sure that they're utilized. If you go back actually 2 years, there was an ask for a number of smart boards, and we didn't go through at that time because we did not have a plan in place. We now have a plan in place. Next year will be the second year of that plan. It also did not create a linkage between what we were trying to achieve from a curricular standpoint with how that translated into technology.
Okay. The reason that I'm asking all of these things is because I think about just my own family and my personal life, and I think about if you need extra things like those very larger, more costly, effective things, you wait to get them until their time when you can afford to get those things. So right now, looking at the budget and looking at the district and things, I mean, we spend a lot of money to buy a new reading series for our school last year. We're spending a lot of money right now teaching the teachers that Oregon Gillingham program, and then spending a lot of money to pay for subs to come into the rooms to watch the children while the teachers are being in service on these extra things. And I'm just wondering why that is something right now when we don't have the money to spend, and we're cutting teachers and taking back from the things that they need right now. Why are we adding those extra things? Are they really necessary? Because I think about, like I said, my own family, and if we had extra things to buy, we don't buy them until we have extra money to have for those. And I'm not really sure, I work in a district, I'm a teacher, and we have a lot of smart boards, and it took me a very long time to learn how to use it. It didn't happen quickly, and I'm pretty technologically savvy and so forth. And I'm wondering why that's something that we need to do right now.
So I'll answer that with a little bit of some redundancy, but hopefully embellish it a little bit. When the plan was put together, we actually had, as I said a moment ago, requests for smart boards throughout the district for various needs. And to your point, because there wasn't a specific need for it, we didn't buy it. Basically, we said until there is a cohesive plan in place that lays out what we need and when we need it, then that's what we're going to put in place, and then we're going to follow that plan. To essentially pull that out now would, number one, set back, obviously, the vision that we put forward and the connection to curriculum, and it would create a devaluation of the math and the reading programs that are, one's already in place, one's imminently going to be in place. So I think you sort of shortchange yourself if you were to pull that out of the budget right now. Some of the other spend, in particular, as I said, is for aging equipment that we really don't have much of a choice. We need to do it. We also upgraded the ability of our network to handle a certain amount of bandwidth, and then obviously the equipment that's going to be in the classroom for us to take advantage of that, we wouldn't gain that benefit as well. I could go on with some other things, but suffice it to say that this has been a very deliberate, planned process, linked to curriculum, and connected to a teachers committee who also meets on technology matters in conjunction with the committee that's working between the board and administration. So if we hadn't done those things, I think that I would probably say there's things we should probably look at more closely. But because this has been something in the works, planned with a specific set of needs and agreement, which is also important when you try and do these things, and funding to get it implemented properly, then you go ahead and do it. And as I said, this also has an impact on virtually every child in the district.
Why?
So it's why? Because everyone in K through 5 will be exposed to these programs utilizing the technology. Everybody in the upper grades, actually, the implementation of the laptops went through this year. Upgrades to each of the classrooms so that we can project and consistently deliver that type in the classroom has been put in place.
But if you weigh the options of what's worth keeping, is it worth keeping the teachers, keeping the paraprofessionals, and all the things that we're looking to shred? Is it more important to keep them first and look at those programs for later on when we can afford them?
Well, I think that you always have to balance one versus the other. And I don't think anybody takes this lightly. I certainly don't. But if I thought that we could go, now certainly I'm not speaking for the board, right? And there are other things that this board will consider before we finalize the budget. I'm telling you from my perspective that this program that has such a wide-arching effect on virtually every child, every student, every teacher in the district.
But it's going to cost a lot of money to start helping the teachers to use it. Who's going to come in and teach the teachers how to use those smart boards and implement those programs and use those things? Because it's not going to happen in that first year where we're already having, money problems as it is. So where's that in-service going to come to help and at what cost?
It has been budgeted. It is part of the budget. We wouldn't go through with the purchase if it wasn't part of the budget.
And is it going to be during the time when the students are in school and then subs are going to be needed to be in the classroom so the teachers are getting that extra in-service at that time?
That's beyond my sort of understanding of the whole process.
But we're approving these decisions.
Well, I can't tell you the details of how it's being implemented in the classrooms, who's teaching when and where.
It just feels like in the last 2 years that the district has bought things for these students without really looking at the resources that we already have and really thinking about how to use those resources in a different way.
The school budget for technology is extremely small.
I'm not even just talking about technology, though.
That's the topic at hand. So if you want to change topics, I'm happy to change topics.
Well, it's that.
Let me finish the talk.
Okay.
So we spend less than 1% on salaries in the district of the total budget associated with technology. Even with these capital requests that are part of the budget, which are funded obviously a bit differently because you don't pay for them all at once, you pay for them essentially over a 5-year period, constitutes maybe 0.6% of a percent in the budget. We have less than 2% in this district on capital expenditures, salaries, on technology. And I think obviously we have great leadership in place now. We have a plan in place now. And as I said, it's a small percentage of the budget that benefits, I think, everybody in the district.
Okay, so then if we take a step backwards and look at why we need those extra things, then you would look back a year to the things that we purchased to get to this place. You said that according to the new math series that you're piloting and the new reading series that was purchased last year for the district, then now as a prerequisite to that, now we're having to buy an additional things to support those services. And I guess my question is then to everybody is, were those things that needed to be purchased right now when our district was already at a loss of money? I'm just wondering why resources aren't being looked at in a different way or things aren't being used, and why we continue to keep buying things for our district and paying all this money to buy these things when we have so much already. And maybe what needs to be looked at is the instruction that's given to the teachers in how to use the materials in a different way to help guide the instruction that's going on in the classroom.
Right. It's hard to argue sort of those types of things.
I just was...
Yeah. Obviously the board relies on administration and on staff to make the recommendations as to what they believe is going to have the biggest impact in the district. And I trust that our administration and they're working together with our teaching staff has made the appropriate recommendations from what I can see. And I think that this is a good expenditure. I think it's a good plan. I think it's well-paced over a 3-year period, and I would hate to disrupt it.
So when we make these types of decisions, who approves those school-wide large amounts of money that we're spending. I'm not just directing this at you,
Right,
I'm directing it to
That's
everybody.
what's being approved as part of the overall budget, obviously. This is part of it.
It just seems very unsettling to know that we would lose teachers or lose things for our children to buy more materials that I don't necessarily know that you need to have right now. It's like I have one pair of sneakers and they're pretty good, but do I go out and buy another pair of sneakers because my sneakers are only just pretty good? Or can I just work with them for right now and deal with it, because I really can't be spending the money because down the road that has consequences. And that's just my question that I've asked several times this year, and I've spoken to different administrators and asking them about it, because it's very confusing as a parent that all this money was spent and now we're at this position where we don't have any money. And now more money is being spent on things, and I'm not really sure if I would say I do feel technology is important, but not at the expense of teachers and certain things that our children have at this point in time. And maybe it needs to be thought about that however much money that is, whether it's a small amount or not, maybe it needs to just wait, because these teachers and these things for our children are far more important than those extra things that we continually keep buying and doing and paying for subs and all these things, and that's money being spent. And I'm not really sure that that's the best use of our money.
I certainly appreciate the sentiment. Certainly is something I know that I look carefully at. I'm sure the rest of the board will consider your comments, and I'm sure they've had similar types of questions in their minds. I think it's up to this committee, the administration, and obviously the teachers who work with them to essentially put the case forward that it's the appropriate spend, and if it is, then we
How
should
much
move
money
forward.
is it exactly that's being spent on that?
On which?
On
the entire, well, typically,
all that technology, updating the computers, getting all that smart board. What is that number? Because that was not
the number is
really
about
said.
the ask this year is about 400,000 per year.
The what? I'm sorry.
400,000 per year over a 4-year span, which once again is less than 0.5% of the total.
And how many
budget.
classrooms will be receiving the smart boards?
Every K through 5 classroom, I believe.
Wow, it's a lot of money being
It
spent.
certainly is.
It's a lot of money.
It absolutely is.
I wonder how many teachers we could save if we just waited.
Well, once again, the question is what type, this is the other side of the question, I'm getting redundant, but the other side of the question is what type of benefit you deliver to the district by following through on the plan and making this available.
But how long will that take?
I'll
Because
finish
they're
the
not going to
thought.
go in and they're not going to be able to be used right away and learned. It doesn't happen like that.
Anyone else this evening? I have a motion to adjourn.